In the year 2000, Blockbuster was an empire. With 9,000 stores and millions of customers, they didn't just own the movie industry, they owned our Friday nights. But that same year, two men walked into a Dallas skyscraper with a desperate offer. Their company was bleeding cash. They were losing $50 million a year, and they wanted a way out. Their name was Netflix. Their price? Just $50 million, a rounding error for a giant like Blockbuster. The CEO of Blockbuster didn't just say no, he laughed them out of the room. He called their business model a niche that would never last. That one laugh is now the most expensive sound in business history. It cost Blockbuster their empire, their reputation, and eventually, their entire existence. Welcome to Stakes of Power. Today, we're dissecting the $50 billion mistake.
But to understand how a giant could be so blind,
we have to go back to the height of their power. To a time when Blockbuster didn't just have customers, they had a kingdom. At its peak, Blockbuster was everywhere. They were a cultural monopoly. They decided what you watched and how much you paid for it. But behind the blue and yellow neon was a secret no one paid attention to. Blockbuster wasn't just in the movie business, they were in the penalty business. In 1 year alone, they made $800 million from late fees. That's 16% of their total revenue made from making their own customers angry. They were a giant that stopped looking forward because they were too busy counting the money in their pockets. And that was their first fatal mistake. While Blockbuster was building more physical stores, a small company called Netflix was quietly changing the rules. Their idea was simple: no stores, no late fees, just a red envelope delivered to your door. At the time, the world was on dial-up internet. Streaming didn't exist. To the suits at Blockbuster, Netflix looked like a flea trying to sell a dream to an elephant. Blockbuster ignored them because they believed their dominance would last forever. But Netflix had something Blockbuster didn't: an obsession with the customer's pain. And the customer hated those late fees. In September 2000, Netflix was struggling. The dot-com bubble had burst. They flew to Dallas to meet John Antioco, the CEO of Blockbuster. This was their Hail Mary. Reed Hastings, the founder of Netflix, offered the whole company for $50 million. Antioco's response has become legendary. He viewed the DVD by mail service as a joke. He believed physical stores were the only way people would ever watch movies. It wasn't just a refusal, it was an insult. Blockbuster chose the comfort of the present over the uncertainty of the future. Then the world shifted. High-speed internet arrived. Netflix introduced a subscription model. Then they did the unthinkable. They introduced streaming. Suddenly, Blockbuster's greatest strength, their 9,000 stores, became their greatest liability. They were paying for thousands of leases and thousands of employees, while Netflix was just paying for servers. By the time Blockbuster tried to launch their own online service, it was already too late. Their business model was a fossil in a digital age. In 2010, the giant officially fell. Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy with $1 billion in debt. Today, only one store remains on Earth, a tourist relic in Oregon. A tombstone for an empire that laughed when it should have listened. That $50 million investment? It would be worth 5,000 times that today. Success in business isn't about being the biggest, it's about being the most adaptable. Because in the game of power, the moment you think you've won is the moment you've already lost. If you enjoyed this autopsy of an empire, subscribe to Stakes of Power. I'll see you in the next boardroom.